everybody, Melanie Silva here, recovered people pleaser turned boundary baddie. Have you ever been in a relationship where at first it felt like a fairy tale, but little by little you started to feel like you were losing yourself? That was me. I thought I had found someone who truly saw me, who made me feel safe, but then the digs started, the gaslighting, the walking on eggshells, and eventually the rage. Looking back, now I can clearly see the 4 phases of being with a narcissist. And if you're a people pleaser like I was, you'll want to recognize these signs before you get pulled in too deep. So if you're a people pleaser, just know that the first step to breaking the toxic cycle is saying no. Click the link below to get my free guide, Say No with Grace. Phase 1, the bliss stage. In the beginning, being with a narcissist feels like pure bliss. For months, sometimes a whole year, you're being charmed, wined, and dined. They listen to your childhood stories like no one else ever has. They ask questions, poke deeper, make you feel incredibly seen. And while it feels validating, what they're really doing is collecting data. They use your vulnerable stories to mirror back exactly what you want to hear. Like I remember one time with one of my narcissistic exes, he made me feel so safe. I was telling him my whole life story. I was like, yeah, so there was this one time in elementary school where I slipped and I fell on some jello and then my skirt went up and everyone saw that I had Cinderella panties. And then all the boys were like, ha ha ha, Melanie wears Cinderella panties. And I was like, stop it. And they were like, Cindermelly, ha ha ha. It was awful. I'm actually reliving it now. But then my narcissistic ex was like, wow, that's a lot. You're so strong and overcoming that. Like, you're amazing. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. Thank you so much. But it feels like safety, but it's manipulation. The other part of the bliss stage is often being wined and dined. Yeah, it's expensive to be a narcissistic man. A part of their manipulation tactic is wining and dining their prey. You really gotta shell out for your lies as a narcissistic man. And this really works on gals who come from more humble means because you're more likely to let this blind you because you're not used to it. I say this respectfully, I've been there, but you're just like, oh my gosh, wow, 2 nice restaurants in 1 week, wow, he must love me. And here's a tip, if you come from humble means, be mindful of how overly excited you get about every fancy dinner or new experience. Narcissists notice when you light up like you've never been treated this good. Save that excitement for home with your friends. Don't show them too much. They're collecting data. Phase 2, the passive-aggressive digs. After the honeymoon phase comes the passive-aggressive digs phase, especially when you start drawing boundaries. For example, one of my exes and I always spent Sundays together, but one week I had to work. I said, hey, we can do breakfast, but I can't hang out all day. And he just got so frustrated and was just like, oh, really? Well, we talked about hanging out on Sunday. I just don't understand why you said one thing and now you're doing another. I can't trust you. And I was like, whoa, I have a job. And sometimes things come up. That's like adult life. Also, we see each other every Sunday, so this isn't a big freaking deal. And then me saying that this isn't a big freaking deal, like, oh my gosh, I swear to God, I saw steam coming out of his ears. He was like, this isn't a big deal? You don't think you and I are a big deal? Ah! I was like, oh my God. I just remember being like, is this happening right now? And then he was like, oh, I guess you just, don't care and I care more about you. And I was just like, what are you even saying anymore? And this is where the gaslighting starts, where it's like, I'm pretty sure I was never the bad guy, but now you're making me the bad guy. And now we're talking about something completely different. We're talking about how much I care or don't care about you. This all started about talking about Sunday, all right? The real point here is I have a job, I have bills to pay, and I need to work so I don't fall behind and get more stressed out and put in a more compromised situation. That's what's really going on here. So this is where the rose-colored glasses start to come off with narcissists. When I got out of this relationship and looked back, it's clear that what was actually going on was this. He didn't like this happening because he was losing control, right? So in his mind, he had me for Sunday. He always has me for Sundays. But something came up out of his control and I chose the external thing. Bad Melanie. And the fact that he would want me to choose him over my own survival is really scary. Anyone who has true healthy love for you would never say, oh, you know what, you should sacrifice your means of paying rent so you can hang out with me, even though we see each other every week and I don't pay your bills. This is the other thing to all my sisters out there. If this man does not pay your bills and he is trying to tell you what to do when it comes to your money, back the F out, okay? That is just so ridiculous on so many levels, I can't even take it. Like you can't be possessive, but also not paying the bills. Like if you are gonna treat someone like their property, you're gonna have to pay for them like property, okay? Make a down payment. Where's the proof of funds? Once again, let me be clear that no one should ever treat anyone like property. Even if someone contributes to the relationship more financially, that does not give them the right to treat you like property. However, if someone is out here telling you how to live your life financially, you best be chipping in. You can't be out here both broke and possessive. Pick a lane, son. It's so ridiculous. But that's a whole nother video topic. Let me know in the comments if you want a video about possessive versus being cared for. Drop a comment saying the word possessive and I can make a video about that. Overall, the second phase of being with a narcissist is the smallest things will irritate them, especially if they're losing control. Phase 3, the rage comes and the mask is off. This is when it turns scary. As the relationship continues, the mask slips. The small digs become screaming, yelling, even berating. If you've ever felt the terrifying tone of a man in full rage, you know exactly what I mean. And what often triggers it is truth. Narcissists build delusions, and if you poke holes, they explode. And when they explode, it is terrifying. It's a terrifying spot to be in, honestly. Especially if you're a woman and the narcissist is a man, there is a certain tone when a man takes that is, it's just terrifying. It's scary, it really is. And once that tone is reached, there is nothing but fear in the room. At one point, I just realized oh my gosh, every other week, we're getting into huge fights, and every other week, I'm terrified. Especially when I bring up the truth regarding how he maneuvers through life. Because the narcissists, they're so delusional in their own mind that they buy into everything that they say. So when someone pokes at that delusion that they've made, they get really freaking angry. For example, I remember as I was in the later stages of this one narcissistic relationship I was in, and where I realized that everyone he surrounded himself with was a loser. And I don't mean that to be rude, but what I mean is that my narcissistic ex only had friends who were in positions of weakness. For example, all of his friends were either poor, suffering with addiction problems, or deeply depressed. To be clear, I am not saying that these people were weak, but they were at weak moments in their life. And it's like he liked it that way. And what I realized is that when they kind of went to him, he was like their savior. He was like their Jesus, the Messiah, okay? Where, he could give them a little breadcrumb of help or advice, just enough to keep them there, but not enough to actually help them. And they would be so grateful because they were in such a low place. He could easily take advantage of them. And I thought it was interesting that he had no friends who were doing fine in life, decent job, decent relationship even. He had no friends that were average or on his level definitely not better. Okay, that's not allowed. Okay, I thought it was very interesting. Then that was when I put together that I was one of the weak links in his kingdom that he had power over. I remember one time he was like, yeah, I gave my friend some money. And I was like, you know, it's weird. It feels like all of your friends are broken. It feels like they're all either broken emotionally or financially. And I swear to God, he got so angry and started yelling. And he was like, how effing dare you say something like that? I'm making it cute. It was not cute. Okay. He was like, you're such a judgmental bitch. Those are my friends. What do you know? Don't ever say something like that again. Ah! I was like terrified, but I realized that I had unknowingly put a spotlight on his secret of taking advantage of the vulnerable. And that's why he was so set off. A part of me felt some sort of satisfaction for cornering him with truth, but another part of me was like, listen, self, this is so toxic and this is so dangerous to even try to have these conversations with him. It's not worth it. It's time to get out. And that's the other mistake sometimes when you're in the trenches of a toxic dynamic with a narcissist, is you try to use logic that will spark more fights. You'll notice that they will get irritated by that, but like you won't be able to win the conversation with them. Like they're willing to lie, cheat, manipulate. They're never going to be like, oh, you know what? You're right. Wow, I do manipulate people who are weaker than me. This is crazy. Yeah, thanks for bringing light to this phenomenon. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna go to therapy and work on it. Like, it's not gonna happen. It's just not. You have to like let it go. But I will say it is good for you to make these mental notes. So moving forward, you can be more discerning of people in the future. Like now, if I'm getting to know a guy, date a guy, I want to take time to make sure he has healthy friendships, family relationships, coworkers. It's important. It's so important to take that time and be discerning of this. So that's the third phase, is honestly dating a narcissist, you'll start to see rage come out. Phase 4, fear and exit planning. So the fourth phase is honestly where you're in this spot of knowing in your gut that you're in a scary, problematic, toxic relationship with a narcissist, but you're not exactly sure how to get out. And I did make another video about this. See the link above, or it's that way. It's one of those ways. But this is actually where you need to start making a plan to get out. So if you are in this position, I would start acting in front of the spouse who is a narcissist, just going with the flow with everything they say, saying yes to them, doing everything you can to avoid fights. That way they won't know that you're onto them or about to leave the relationship as you're playing the role. Make your exit strategy. If you're in this position, I am sending you so much love. And I want you to know that I know it's hard and tempting to stay, but it's so worth it. After I got out, I was able to make my complete transformation, and my life just changed for the better. And I know that can happen for you too. So definitely leave even though it hurts. If you're a people pleaser who wants to stop these toxic patterns, grab my free guide, Say No with Grace, link below. And if you want to go deeper, check out my other video on how to leave a toxic relationship. The link is in the description. You don't have to live in fear. Boundaries are freedom, and your healing is worth it.